So the Formula One season resumes this weekend, and Gargi and me could not be more excited if we tried, even though we know what the result will probably be of the race.
Max Verstappen wins the championship?
Most likely.
Yeah, okay, thank you guys. Nice.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for watching.
But all jokes aside, what we said we'd do is, because the season has obviously had a 3-week break, we thought there'd be plenty of action.
But there's been none actually.
None whatsoever. How is it that there have been no major driver changes announced? Like I remember last year, 2022 was chaos because you had Vettel retire, then Alonso joined Aston Martin.
Albon came back.
Albon was back anyway in 2022. He came back in the beginning of 2022.
My bad.
No, the story I'm telling you is where you had Vettel retire, Alonso joined Aston Martin, Alpine promote Piastri to a seat, he puts out that tweet. And then it's like it goes to a court case and everything, and it was just mad. So last year set a very high benchmark that unfortunately 2023 just did not match. The big news came today, by the way, that Haas have retained their driver lineup for next year.
Oh,
that's the big news.
How exciting!
I know.
This silly season was
it was not very silly.
Without any silly. Where's the silly, guys? Come on.
Silly. So we thought that instead of talking about silly season, because as we said, there's no silliness. Let's just talk about the season so far. How have the teams done? Which are the areas that they have to do, improvements in? Let's start with the championship leaders in both departments.
Yeah, they're winning it.
They're winning it.
Yeah.
It's been a great year for them. But amazingly, Red Bull have not been having a perfect year. That second driver situation is a torture.
Oh yeah, I mean when we look at Red Bull and we think, or when we say things like, oh they're winning it, we're only talking about Max Verstappen. And this is something I think Marco also said, Helmut Marko, that it's not Red Bull who's doing very well, it's Max Verstappen who's doing amazing.
Max, Super Max. That song is very catchy. It's been playing in my head for days. I randomly find myself humming it in office. I'm not even a Max Verstappen fan. Just
happens.
Yeah,
happens to the best of us. Yeah. But then when we look at Checo, we're like, are
is
we sure he's in the same team? Because something's off.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Checo being beaten in race pace by whether it be the Ferraris, the McLarens, the Aston Martins, the Mercedes. Everyone has beaten him. Yeah, I mean, I know he won a couple of races to start, but thereafter, I mean, if we talk about title challenges falling off a cliff, this is the definition of it.
I mean, yes. I don't know what it is about Checo, but I think at the end of 2024 season, I don't think anything will happen with Checo as of now, or at the end of 2023 season. That will be too soon for even Red Bull to kind of.
Will it? Will it?
Okay, maybe we could be seeing a driver change.
I mean, what if Danny Rick impresses in AlphaTauri? You know for a fact you're bringing him back. I mean, but that's just how Red Bull operates.
How much can you inspire?
It doesn't matter. It's not like he has to be getting podiums. If he can make the car be close to the points, like what Yuki Tsunoda does, if he can finish ahead of Tsunoda, that's it. That's all the proof you need. We all know.
Finish ahead of Lando.
He's not going to finish ahead of Lando. Not now anyway. See, and we know that McLaren problems arose with his driving style. I think he was mentally affected also. He just didn't let on as much at the time because he really wanted to work. But with Red Bull, that second driver situation, big problem for them. It's a headache. I mean, it says a lot that they are romping toward championships, but it's just not at that level. Like again, if you compare teams of the past who've had dominant runs, Ferrari of the early 2000s, it was sorted when it came to their second driver. You knew if Schumacher wasn't there, a Barrichello would pick up the pace. Similar with Mercedes, once post the Nico Rosberg era, you knew if Hamilton wasn't winning, Bottas was there to pick up the pieces. You don't have that same guarantee with Perez, and that's a major problem. So I think that's the one to watch. Obviously not right now, but maybe by the end of the season.
Yeah,
maybe
it could happen. I'm all 50-50 about this because Helmut Marko has talked about Sergio Perez not being up to the mark, but he's also backed him quite a lot.
Yeah, speaking of, you can finish your point, then we'll let it.
Yeah, and so it's kind of, making me very, it's very dodgy from Red Bull. I mean, they're not really, saying that, oh, we have faith in Checo, so we're going to look at how the season goes ahead or whatever. It's been very,
up and
down from
in fact, I remember
Marco and
Horner. In fact, I remember, I think it was after Belgium, where Marco said a very harsh thing in the media, shock horror. And he said that it's good to see Perez has woken up from his championship dream.
Oh, yeah.
Ouch!
That's
ouch!
sad.
Let the man dream. Anyway, we're speaking of off the mark or not up to the mark can be said about pretty much every team. And I mean, it depends really on your perspective. But Red Bull have been so perfect. It can be said about every other team who are actually right now vying for second. And I'm counting 3 teams in there, one of them being a surprise. The first, let's get to the team who are actually second, Mercedes, who have been struggling throughout the 2022-23 since this new ground effect era has come in, yet somehow been there or thereabouts. It's very middling sort of a ground.
I think for this season there is a conclusion already, and we can see, not the light at the end of the tunnel, but we can see the end of the tunnel, and which is that Toto Wolff has already said that they've given up on this season and they're focusing all their energy on 2024.
Correct.
Because at this point it's just too late.
Yeah, and I mean, they brought that new upgrade, I remember, in Spain. It brought some improvements, but then others also developed, and they've been kind of behind the curve. And you have to remember, with them, they pretty much acknowledged it was a car concept problem.
Yeah.
So, a car concept problem, you can only resolve.
Fix that.
No, you can't fix that in one season now. Not a chance. Not with the budget cap and stuff like that. Previously, you could have done it. You make a B-spec car. Now, not so much. And what they've said is that, look, that was one step. So even they knew, mind you, even with the big upgrade coming, they said, no, our eyes are on 2024. Because we know we've gotten it wrong for this year and a half. And whatever major changes we have to make can only be made come the 2024 car. Despite that, I'd say they're probably in a better position than the other team who were supposed to be competing, but have underwhelmed spectacularly.
Yeah, I think what works with Mercedes is that they already had the foundation of a great car,
Correct,
right? When we talk about the 2020...
2021, whatever carryover, at least you knew there was a winning team there.
Yeah, exactly. You had the foundation, and then you just had to, bring in the new specifications or whatever, the design template, whatever, upgrades that happened with FIA. But then, of course, this season did not work out for Mercedes, it happens.
It happens. I mean, it happens with a lot of big teams.
They'll come back very strong next year.
Yeah, I'm hoping, because that's the only thing you can do as a fan is pin your hopes, and now especially because you know that they're not going to be developing. They've said as much. It's just about maximizing. And one advantage they've had, qualifying, they've been hit or miss, but their car is very good in race trim, which is where incidentally the next team who are up there, Ferrari, have struggled. Ferrari are the opposite. Really good qualifying car, but then it just eats into the tires.
I mean, Ferrari at this point is such a curious case. You just cannot figure out. When you think you've got you have one thing figured out, something else comes up. So I think, also talking about number 2 drivers, Carlos Sainz is looking very murky in that.
In fact, right now I'd say their situation with both their drivers is far from resolved, and the whispers around Sainz potentially joining Audi for 2025, it just keeps growing.
Good for him, but not good for Ferrari, because you're losing a good driver. Come on, there's a lot of potential in Carlos.
I agree, but I think they'd be more hurt if they lose Charles.
That's true. But then again, Charles is
Where
something...
does he go? Mercedes is the only realistic proposition. Come on. I think the only realistic proposition... No, not a... Alfa Romeo is basically the Audi team. Yeah. They're not going to sign both of Ferrari's drivers. I doubt. But with Leclerc, the only place I can see him going is Mercedes. And even that will depend... It'll depend on if Lewis retires. And we know for a fact he said very clearly, I don't intend retiring now.
Exactly. And George is doing very well. Mercedes is very happy with George. So I don't think there is going to be any change in the Mercedes lineup up until 2025.
At the earliest.
At the earliest. Yeah. Because Lewis is looking very strong and very good. Yeah. But when it comes to Charles, I think he's still very, very loyal to Ferrari.
He's very attached to that side.
Yeah. Because of all the things that he said, even though he's unhappy, even though he's disappointed, he's very loyal to that team. Yeah,
he said very clearly that if it comes down to it, winning a championship with this team would mean that much more. I mean, to be fair, you've got other drivers who are like that. I mean, Verstappen also, when he joined Red Bull, people tend to forget they won a championship contention team. Exactly. 2016, 2015, they weren't in contention for the championships at all. It took them up till like 2020, 21 to become a consistent race winning side. Thereafter, yes, they've laid the foundations, but Ferrari, you'd be hoping, and in fact, Charles would be hoping that, they get a similar breakthrough. But there's another driver who'd be hoping for a similar breakthrough, and that is Lando Norris at McLaren. To be fair, they have gotten that breakthrough, or it looks like they've made a massive breakthrough with that upgrade that they brought just before the summer break.
I mean, McLaren after that upgrade is looking really good, because at the first half of the season,
they've really had
they had a very contrasting what do you call it?
It's graph. Up and down. Yes, it started low, but then once that upgrade hit,
they just went up.
Skyrocketed.
Yeah, and I think if there's someone who can, quite challenge Mercedes at this point in time, McLaren it
Has
is.
to be. Ironically, by the way, that's the second customer team to have done them. We'll get to the other one in just a bit. But McLaren, how impressive have they looked? And
Cool,
by the
very
way,
good.
I think they have probably one of the more underrated driver lineups on the grid
That's
right
true.
now. Because you've seen even Piastri in Belgium, he was right up there and thereabouts with Max. Of course, in the end, couldn't compete because in race trim, that car still has a few problems. But the fact that he got a podium in the sprint was there and thereabouts on qualifying. Piastri, my God, he's showing every bit of potential that everyone knew he
Yeah,
had.
I mean, after winning the F2 championship, I think he lost 1 year in F2.
He lost 1 year, yeah. He won it
He
in-
wasn't given a seat anywhere.
Yes, he won it in 2021.
Yeah.
Thereafter, 2022, he was
He
only
wasn't
the
there.
reserve driver for
Yeah.
Alpine. So,
I think so. I mean, losing out on that 1 year of Oscar Piastri is a shame for the fans because he's been doing so well, so
Amazingly
incredibly
well.
well for someone who's that young.
correct?
He is amazing, and I think I'm so excited to see him and what his future will be at McLaren because
Exactly.
Lando is also comparatively
We know what
very
Lando
young.
is. We know what Lando is.
No,
We
I
know-
mean, when we talk about that ages,
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
similar, right? There's someone who are, both of them are the future of F1.
Exactly.
And this is something, either of them are someone who you could potentially win a world championship.
Exactly. Both of them have
Yeah.
future world champions written all over them. And it's
Exactly.
very exciting if McLaren can keep this development graph there. To have two drivers who are that good. My God,
And
amazing.
also, something that McLaren has developed quite a lot is their strategy.
Yeah, underratedly
Yeah.
so. Underratedly so. But I think McLaren, as I said, they weren't the only Mercedes customer team to give their customer team an almighty beating. You had Aston Martin doing the same thing, but
Oh,
they
yeah.
went the reverse way of
With the
McLaren.
upgrade.
Yeah, they brought the upgrade and somehow became slower.
I don't know how that happened.
How do you do that?
I think it was the new floor
It wasn't the floor. I mean, we don't know what it is.
because they had quite a lot of upgrades.
Yeah, they did. They changed their side pods.
They
There was
changed
there were changes to the wings as well.
The wind tunnel, there were a lot of things that changed.
Correct. They made
And if
a
I'm no, please
No, I'm
continue.
saying they made a lot of changes.
Yeah.
They had that last podium finish, if I'm not wrong, was Canada. Thereafter, nothing.
Yeah.
Remember, you had that legendary podium.
Yeah.
It was Verstappen, Hamilton, and Alonso.
Yeah.
Them on the podium. Thereafter, nothing. And they brought the upgrades thereafter. So, yeah, it's been very contrasting for them because they started the season. I think Alonso had 5 out of 5 podiums or something like that at one point, and then thereafter, nothing. This just gone down drastically, and this is where now I think the team's shortcomings are being exposed because when they had a good car, you had only one driver doing the job. It was only Alonso.
of
Now
course.
with the thing not doing so much, there's more pressure on Stroll to deliver. Unfortunately, Lance Stroll hasn't quite been able to, meet that benchmark.
But he's not going anywhere.
I don't know, unless he chooses to, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Just that's team.
But I don't know. It was the Cognizance AI, if I'm not wrong, that built the new design and all of that.
Yeah, they were definitely using it for
Yeah.
assistance. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think something went wrong over there with the design of the car is because we've seen with the new specifications that FIA has brought in with the cars that the floor makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah, the underfloor is a big
Yeah.
difference maker. Big
and
difference
that is
maker.
something exactly that Aston Martin changed.
Yeah, they did change their floor, and I don't think it's done them much good.
Yeah.
So let's see. I don't know what they're going to do in the second half, but again, if you had to say they started exactly the opposite of McLaren,
Yeah.
started like a house on fire. Thereafter, the fire has kind of extinguished. But that's only 5 teams we've covered. Yeah, 5 teams.
Yeah, the
This-
rest are just
The rest are
there.
they're just there. That's one way of looking at it. But I think this year the lower midfield has been very tight.
That's
Even-
because you're bored with Max Verstappen winning it.
But true, but I mean, look at how Williams has done.
Oh yeah.
And Williams and
Is
especially
it
Alex
all
Albon.
Albon.
It is because again, Logan Sargent has
Yeah.
also kind of underwhelmed debut.
Exactly.
I know a rookie year, and still I don't want to be too harsh on the guy. He's shown flashes of brilliance, but those flashes have lacked consistency.
Because if you remember, before Red Bull brought in Alex Albon into the seat next to Max Verstappen, he was also doing very well at Alpha
AlphaTauri, then known as Toro Rosso.
Yes.
But again, the other teams, Albon has been probably the star of the midfield pack.
Yup.
Alfa Romeo have shockingly struggled, by the way.
Yeah.
Last year, I remember they were consistently a point scoring team first half of the season. This year, it's not even been that.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going wrong there because, again, this is the team that come 2026 will be the Audi team.
Yeah.
You're going to be having big expectations from them because, again, backed by a new manufacturer which has history of success in other racing
What will
series.
be the new name? I
Audi.
forgot.
That's
No,
gonna
no,
be
no. Alpha Tauri
Alfa
is
Rom-
also getting
yeah,
a revamp.
Alpha Tauri, that is the Red Bull Junior
Yeah.
team. I don't know what they're going to be named. There was a rumor that Hugo Boss would kind of end up signing.
Oh yeah, right.
They signed some sort of a deal with them, and the team would be known as Hugo Boss. I don't know how true or false that is, but even Alpha Tauri, interesting you mentioned them because they're going to be in for a big change from next year onwards. I think it's been said that now they're not going to be designing their cars as originally as they have been. It's going to be basically doing what Haas and Ferrari do, which is you buy as many parts as you're legally allowed to and try and make cars as close to the Red Bull, which in a way kind of makes sense because again, if you're trying to use that car as a tester for your young drivers,
why not?
Then why not build it according to that way? Of course, we've had this conversation in the past as to whether or not that's good for the sport. It isn't. But if it's legal and Red Bull can do it, why not? And that's, I think, what they're going to be doing. So let's see how that goes. Because again, even for Alpha Tauri, I think we don't know what their driver lineup looks like for next year.
No, we don't.
Yuki hasn't been confirmed. Daniel's only here for the second half of the 2023 season. So it could be very interesting, especially if that car, if they start taking as many parts from Red Bull and starts producing similar consistent point scoring. Imagine if a Daniel Ricciardo is scoring points in that. Then suddenly the temptation to replace him
with Checo,
very, very big.
Very big. And I think because Red Bull is so fickle with their decisions of throwing out and bringing in drivers, it could very well happen that we could see maybe a mid-season change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why? It has happened before.
How many times?
Many.
How many
Several.
times?
Too many times.
Too many times to remember.
Good.
Too many times to remember at this point. Because I remember doing a video on that also. You guys can check that out. That's on Sports Today somewhere as well. Because there are a number of switches. I was like, how did this team do it so consistently? But then again, that's the advantage of having two teams, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You just keep doing the switcheroos. But so, I mean, in the midfield, as we said, it's been very close. I think Williams have been that standout team. Disappointing team, I would say, Alpha Tauri. They've been not kind of on the levels expected. Again, remember, this is a team that in 2020 upset, won a race. 2021,
but
Pierre
that was all Pierre.
Yeah, and 2021, same thing. Remember, Pierre Gasly was at one point Mr. P6.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I
he
know.
always either be qualifying or finishing there. I'm like, my God, that is shocking consistency. And then come 2022, Red Bull took off. But Alpha Tauri they weren't able to mimic the same things. And they've obviously struggled with the new, technology, with the new specifications, technical regulations that have come in. I think that's why Red Bull kind of wants them to work more in sync. So that's our ratings. These are what we thought how the teams are going. What do you guys feel though? You can let us know that in the comments below. Please don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tap that bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us on Insta, Twitter, Facebook, and
don't forget to download the SportsTech app.
Plus, if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos that we've done, and stay tuned to Sports Today. We'll be bringing you lots more from the world of sport. For now though, from Gargi and me, it's bye-bye.